Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is SportsIQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome here to the SportsIQ Thursday, December 4th. Glad you're here with us. The SportsIQ with Larry Smith. Another great guest coming up here. Jasmine Wimbish is joining us today from CBS Sports. It's been 6 or 7 weeks since we talked to her back at the start of the NBA season. It's not a good idea to check back in and kind of get her thoughts on, obviously, the Thunder. Just thundering right along over the rest of the league, right? Just wreaking havoc, the defending NBA champions, but also get her thoughts on some other teams here as well. We'll talk a lot about some signing day stuff in just a moment. Producer Tony joining me to break down on that. Penn State still without a coach. What is happening in State College? It is not a happy valley right now in Central PA. Also, we'll talk some college hoops in just a bit as well later on here in the show. After talking a great guest yesterday, having Andrew Kahn come on and talk about the Michigan Wolverines. I just saw, I believe it was ESPN and their power rankings. Every website has their own rankings, what they do. They've got Michigan right now at the number 1 spot. Can't argue with that, with the way they've been playing right now. And what a job Dusty May has done in just his second season trying to, again, restore that proud franchise, that proud program to dominance. And again, remember, he's the guy that led Florida Atlantic, of all teams, to a Final Four appearance, greatest season by far in that school's history. And so now trying to make things happen there in Ann Arbor. And so far, he's off to a good start. We'll talk more about that coming up. Week 4 in the NFL and kicks off tonight. Dallas and Detroit. The Cowboys coming in 6-5-1. Detroit at 7-5. How about Dak Prescott, the season he's having? 3,261 yards, 25 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. He's enjoying his highest quarterback rating since his rookie year, which, by the way, was back in 2016. Isn't that crazy just to think about Dak? And he's already 10 years in the league. It feels like was just yesterday that Romo went out and he came in and replaced him and never looked back. Kind of crazy about that. Speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, as they kick off tonight on Prime, Week 14, the Cowboys and the Chiefs setting a record on Thanksgiving Day, 57.2 million people watching the most watched NFL regular season game ever. And folks, listen, clearly we were enjoying our TV after Turkey because check out some of these numbers that are out now from our Thanksgiving viewing. Dallas and Kansas City setting the record, 57.2. How about Green Bay and Detroit? 47.7 million. That's the second most watched game. That was the first game on Thanksgiving with the Chiefs and Cowboys to follow. It's just insane. And then later that night, Cincinnati and Baltimore, the late game, 44.7 million. It's the 4th year in a row that the Thanksgiving night game is set a new record. And again, only 3 million behind what we saw with the Packers and the Lions. So basically, we sat in front of our TV and we did not get up. We watched football, and more football. And when we decided we had enough football, we looked over and watched basketball because on CBS, it was Duke and Arkansas. The evening game, 6.8 million, the most in more than 30 years. You got to go back to 1993 when Purdue played Indiana and 7.2 million watched. That's the most watched game. It's been the most watched since back then. We saw this on CBS last year. They had Illinois and Arkansas playing in Kansas City. That was a game that Illinois won, and that audience was the second most in the regular season since like 2006. It was second most like in 18 years. So again, didn't set a record, but much like this, it was the most we had since. And it just showed again that we all were into watching TV. I know it was cold in a lot of places. That might have played into it. You weren't going outside to throw the football around. It was too cold for that. But in case you didn't watch the Chiefs and Cowboys, and you didn't watch the Packers and Lions, and you didn't watch the Ravens and the Bengals, and you didn't watch the Blue Devils in Arkansas, you may have watched Michigan State and North Carolina, because that game on Fox drew 6.5 million, had a peak audience at one time of 14.4 million. Two ranked teams, two blue bloods, if you will, two storied franchises in the college game, if you will. But 6.5 million, that was a record, the most ever, largest audience for a college basketball game ever on the Fox network. So just insane what we were doing on Thanksgiving. Were we eating? Were we eating with our plates in our laps and watching? I don't know. But anyway, listen, once again, people balk at the numbers and the media contracts. And for a while, the networks were getting away from sports, right? Getting away from and going to other types of cheaper programming, but proven time and time again. I've said this so many times, and I'll always say it. It is a great value if you can afford to get a sports franchise on your network, like what we're seeing right now. There's great value there. And keep in mind, if they're paying whatever many hundreds of millions or billions of dollars for it, keep in mind, there is a profit being made. They're not breaking even with these numbers. They've broken them down and they know they can make a profit on this. We're just discussing NBC. Consider that in February, NBC will have the Olympics, the Super Bowl, and the NBA All-Star Game. Do you think that sales staffs around the country are not salivating? If you're with an NBC affiliate around the country, you are about to get paid, because those are three franchises where you will make a ton of money with your local advertising dollars, not to mention what they're going to make on the national level. So it is there. NBC right now, in fact, is a great example in terms of when you get into sports and on television. Probably about 30 years ago, they really went away from sports outside of the Olympics and horse racing, right? I mean, they've got, they took the Olympic contract away from CBS. CBS had it for years. NBC came in the 90s and became the Olympic channel. They've had summer games and winter games now for going on about 30 years exclusively. And then they've had horse racing. They have the Derby. That's the big one. And they do so much there. We've had our friend Kenny Rice has been on the show. We've had him, a longtime NBC Sports horse racing analyst and reporter. That's been NBC. But look at what they're doing right now, what they've added here recently. The NBA is back on. The WNBA. Of course, they've got the NFL Sunday Night. That's a franchise that's doing very well for them. They've had Notre Dame for years. They've added the Big Ten football and basketball in their sports. And then now they're adding Major League Baseball. So you look right now, NBC Sunday nights is going to have a sport on year-round, right? So right now they're in the NFL. When that season ends, they'll go to the NBA. They'll have a Sunday night. And then when that season ends, they'll go to Major League Baseball. And then that will go away. And once that ends, they're back to NFL. So, I mean, it is, and then you get the WNBA in between. They've signed that contract as part of the new deal. So, listen, this is a thing that it's big, big business. There's a lot of money being made. And just remember, when you see these numbers, that's what they're paying for it. That's not what the networks are making. And they're making money. Believe this. They're making money on that. So anyway, so there you go. Hey, some other NFL news to pass along. The Chargers, Justin Herbert is planning to play Monday Night Football against Philadelphia. As you know, he had surgery on Monday on that broken left hand. He's wearing a cast, he says, to support that and to keep it stabilized. They put some a rod in there and some pins to do that. He still has to work on gripping the ball. He's not worked on that, he said, as he did not practice on Wednesday. But again, Herbert, star quarterback for the Chargers, is planning to play, as again they've got playoff aspirations in mind. Let's get back now to some college hoops. How about number 10 Iowa State routing Alcorn last night, 132-68. Cyclones now 8-0. Now here's what they did. Saw a stat online. This is they're allegedly the first team to do all of this in the single game. Score 130 or more points, hit 20 or more threes, shoot 70% from the field, and shoot 70% from the three-point arc, all in the same game. Iowa State, one of those teams we don't talk about enough because obviously Purdue's number one, Houston's up there, Arizona's off to a great start, UConn is always a power, Duke is still undefeated, big win over Florida, but Iowa State and what Coach TJ has done there has just been fantastic. And by the way, huge test for the Cyclones, biggest of the season so far. They are at Purdue, number one team in the country, coming up here on Saturday. Again, love when these teams, highly ranked teams, nationally elite teams, when they play each other in the non-conference. It's good for us. It's good for them. It's good for everybody. Meanwhile, speaking of not playing anybody, number 22, Indiana, first true road game of the season, and they lay an egg against a Minnesota team that is battered and bruised. All kinds of guys that are out, not playing well, not playing up to their capacity because of injuries, and yet they get the win. They shock the Hoosiers there at the Barn in Minneapolis. 73-64 was the score there. Great job, Niko Medved, in his first Big Ten game since coming over from Colorado State, first-year head coach of the Golden Gophers. By the way, for Indiana, it does get tougher for them moving forward. They play number 6 Louisville, I should say, actually Saturday in Indianapolis, and then they're at 18th ranked Kentucky at Rupp Arena a week later. We'll talk more college basketball here in just a few minutes. Another story to pass along: ESPN is reporting that Vanderbilt explored the possibility of playing a 13th game this coming Saturday in an attempt to woo the College Football Playoff Committee to come in and convince them that they should be one of the 12 teams. Of course, it didn't work out. Logistics, et cetera, wasn't going to happen. But here's the thing: the Commodores are 10-2 right now in their record. They're 14th in the CFP. Look, hear my words. You're going to have 16 teams in the College Football Playoff in the future. If it doesn't happen in 2026, I still think it will. It's coming. You're also going to see a situation similar to what the Big Ten Conference has talked about. The Commissioner, Tony Petitti, and we've talked about this on the show, of having some consolation games earlier in the day on Conference Championship Saturday. Why? Because you have these massive conferences, and so hello, Texas A&M, you're not always going to play the toughest team in your conference. So if you're right there and we're going to have that scrum of 4, 5, 6 teams all tied at the top for the conference championship, or they're all within one game of each other, how do you discern the best teams out of that scrum outside of the top 2 going to the conference championship? It's going to happen to determine those 3, 4, and possibly 5th spots to go into the college football playoff. It is going to be something that TV networks are going to lap up when they see the money they can make, because yes, advertisers are going to buy up all the inventory. And so therefore, if you think that the first Saturday of December is crazy now, listen, you need to brace yourself, because it's coming. It's happening because of situations like Vanderbilt, like Miami, like BYU, like Texas. Okay, one more note as well. Baseball. Love this. Ron Washington, one of my favorite guys in all of baseball. It appears he is not done with the game. Now, remember, last time we heard from Ron Washington, he was leaving as the Angels manager in season to go have heart surgery. And so it was not surprising when they said, yeah, end of the season, we're not going to bring him back as manager. We get that. Well, now there's a report he may be joining the San Francisco Giants as an infield coach for 2026. When it is in your blood, it is in your blood, and there's no way to get out of it. But we love this. We're glad that Coach Wash is doing well, and we wish him the very best wherever he does, so wherever he goes in 2026. All right, stay with us. We've still got some signing day news coming up, and in just a bit, Jasmine Wimbish will join us as well from CBS Sports to talk a little more NBA right here on the Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. That's 800-215-0341.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Hey, welcome back here. Let's talk a little more coaching. And how about the things maybe that aren't happening, like hiring a head coach at Penn State? To producer Tony, we were joking about this, really, that Penn State's the one that started this. We just heard from Mike Rose a couple of days ago, our friend, veteran Penn State reporter, when I asked him if there's any regret there in State College. And he said, yeah, there's some people that think maybe the timing was not right, the way that here we are, signing day has come and gone, and they still don't have a head coach.
Yeah, I mean, whatever's happening in Penn State right now is just a full-blown meltdown. Like, we're talking nuclear meltdowns right through the core, through the center of the world, basically meltdown. It just hasn't gone well at all. Having no coach in signing day, when you look at the Penn State class and the fact that right now their class is rated somewhere in the 150s, they're down there around with FCS schools as far as recruits. They have four kids signed with them so far. Four. The why that matters, Larry, is let's go back to SMU getting put on the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 2 back-to-back years of recruiting, and it took them 2 decades to recover.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. I mean, now the portal will help because it changes things, and they can get some recruits that way. But basically, it's a whole year that they've lost now at Penn State.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you're going to have to, whoever does come in, we know now it's not going to be Kalani Sataki. The BYU boosters came in and said, wait, you can't have our guy. A couple days ago, it appeared that he was going to be the man, and now he's not. There was some talk. We talked to Mike Gross about maybe Brian Hartline, the Ohio State coordinator, possibly coming over. He just went to South Florida to fill that opening created when their coach, Alec Golish, went to Auburn. So, I mean, to your point, it's going to be one of these things where, who takes this job? And like I said, when they do, they are behind the 9 ball, behind the 10 ball, because they're going to have to try to find a way to make up for all this.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think the best thing that Penn State can do is stop fooling around. The players want Terry Smith. Name him the permanent head coach at this point.
Yeah.
Nothing good is going to happen if you don't. I don't know who else is left unless you've got another coordinator that you think you might be able to pull up and make a head coach. But you've lost so much ground already. Right now, name Smith the head coach. Stop the bleeding. See what other recruits are out there that haven't signed yet. Maybe make a run at 3 or 4 of those and put together a small class. I wouldn't really try to oversign with 2 and 3-star kids. I don't think that helps you in the long run.
Right.
But get enough kids to make something worthwhile, and then dip heavy into the portal, and see if you can't come up with a really good recruiting class that way to help you cover up everything that went wrong so far. But it has just been, I mean, for a name school like Penn State to be involved in an unmitigated disaster like this is just embarrassing if you're a Penn State fan.
And one of your own creating. I mean, that's the thing, is that you're the one that did this, right? It's not like this, some coach just left, voluntarily, like at Ole Miss. And listen, give them credit. They had a plan, right? So Kevin makes his move. They say, okay, they wasted no time, same day, elevating their defensive coordinator to the permanent head coach. And so things can go along as smoothly as possible. There's no search, no interruption, and they're going to go right into the playoff, trying to keep lockstep with what they've done here to get to 11-1. You talked about recruits, and on signing day, how about James Franklin coming in and raiding what would have been Penn State's cupboard and grabbing several guys to go follow him to Virginia Tech?
Yeah, they nabbed 8 different Penn State would-be signees. There were 8 guys who flipped their commitment and followed James Franklin over to Virginia Tech, including 3 4-star recruits, including a big-name linebacker that Penn State was really high on. So, I mean, give James Franklin credit for going out and setting the stage now at Virginia Tech for him to be able to rebound that program. I mean, they're up into the program. The rankings are still in the 30s, but that's better than what Virginia Tech had been doing. Right. So he's improved the recruiting already just based on what he had at Penn State and brought with him. Again, if he can go in the portal now when it opens up in January, see how many pieces he can fill in, Virginia Tech should be a player in the ACC next year.
Yeah.
I mean, right now you have to think if everything goes their way, and Franklin, we know, is a good coach. We know that he can coach programs up and build programs. You're looking at a team that will probably be no worse than at least bowl eligible at Virginia Tech next year. Maybe an 8 or 9 win team, probably.
Yeah, totally agree. And that's the thing, I think, like you said, again, you go back to Penn State. What were you thinking to make this move? Because Everyone else has moved on. James Franklin's moved on. The recruits he had coming to Penn State, they've moved on. Everyone else has things in place except you, Penn State. You're the one that it was a plan of your making, and it could not have gone worse than what it has right now. Talking about recruiting, USC with a monster class. In fact, the best they've had in years out there in Southern California.
Yeah, give credit to Lincoln Riley. You know, he was supposed to be on the hot seat coming into this year. People in Southern California were up in arms. They hadn't been performing the way they had thought they would when Riley came in. He had some really strong stretches, but he also had some stretches where the team disappeared. Well, right now they're on top of the recruiting world. They have the number one class, Larry, and why that matters, it's the first time a non-SEC school has topped the recruiting charts in the last 20 years. The top of the recruiting list had been mostly Alabama. Then Georgia popped in there for a few times. Texas A&M has been up there once or twice with the top recruiting classes. But now it has shifted out to USC. I mean, USC has always been like they're a sleeping giant, right? They're one of the true blue blood programs of college football. They have the history. They have all the makings. They've got great recruiting base in California. If you can recruit other parts of the California to go with it, you're going to be something special. And they found it. And here's a name to keep in mind, Chad Bowden. Not a lot of people, if you don't follow recruiting, you probably don't know who he is. He was like the player personnel director at Notre Dame. He had ties to Southern California. Riley convinced him to go over after last season. He left Notre Dame, went to USC, and is building this model. He's also the reason Notre Dame had the number 4 or 5 recruiting class this year because he had things in place, and who Notre Dame picked to replace him has been somebody who would work with him. So it kind of kept the same kind of feel in. And it's always great to see those kind of stories. Not a lot of people know about those people behind the scenes that make things happen. Look, Notre Dame's last time that they were a national championship contender was in the 80s, right? When Lou Holtz was there and they won the title in 88. Vinny Cerruto was kind of the forerunner to the GM. He was the recruiting director at Notre Dame. He went on to the San Francisco 49ers, helped build the team that won the Super Bowl in 94. When you have those guys behind the scenes, it makes that the coach's job that much easier because they're giving him and helping him find talent that he can build into these championship rosters.
Yeah. And again, we talk about, the way that the schedules are unbalanced. You're going to have really a different set of teams every year contend. And for the most part, or because again, you're going to have some schedules be easier than others, but USC to me is kind of a sleeping giant right now. UCLA is down for the moment. And so USC putting things in place. We talked to Cooper Perkins earlier this season, and he was telling us just the same thing that, look, they made some changes behind the scenes in the front office, if you will, different structure right now. And certainly it has paid off. They had a great season. For Lincoln Riley, somebody who, if he finished 500 or worse, might be talking about he would be on the hot seat. The patience had worn thin out there in Trojan land, but not the case right now. A couple of funny things I looked up in terms of we're about to hit the transfer portal here in a few weeks. Already hearing of some players, they're going to throw their name in the hat. Conversations we know are already beginning. No, it hasn't happened yet. But here's the thing. Keep in mind that just because a player transfers or transfers in doesn't mean anything. Of the last 8 Heisman winners, only 2 played with the same school, and that same school was Alabama, Deontay Smith and Bryce Young. And of the last 8 quarterbacks taken in the first round of the NFL draft just over the last 2 years, only 2 of those 8 played for the same school, Drake May, North Carolina, and J.J. McCarthy of Minnesota. Michigan. So just because someone's going to transfer or whatever transfers in, it may not be a bad thing. It really is kind of the thing to do right now when you look at in terms of the player movement. It happens more often than you think, and a lot of times we're seeing those players going to have great success at their second or third school.
Absolutely, and that's just going to continue. You look at the contenders now. You look Carson Beck down in Miami. They're on the verge of making the playoff, right? You look at who are some of the other ones that are out there. I'm drawing a blank on a couple of them, but there are a number of teams in that top echelon. Look, Mendoza at Indiana. Yeah, he's a transfer. You've got a lot of guys in key positions who have transferred in and out, and that's the way college football is these days. You have to use both tools. You got a tool in recruiting in high school. You've got a tool in recruiting in the transfer portal. Now, all this is happening because the NCAA has just kind of screwed things up. Because this signing day, if this signing day weren't here in December, half the firings you would have seen wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Not during the season anyway. They may have happened on bloody Monday after the season was over, but they wouldn't have happened in the season, which set this whole train in motion, starting, with Penn State was the biggest one to drop early in the season when James Franklin was outed, from the Nittany Lions job after they went 3-3. That was the big domino that fell that has caused all these other dominoes to fall.
Yeah, exactly. You talk about quarterbacks that have transferred. Julian Sayans one, Luke Altmaier at Illinois, Garcia at Tennessee, Miller Moss at Louisville, Darian Mensah, the $4 million quarterback going from Tulane to Duke. So, it's a big deal right now happening everywhere. There's no question. And again, like we've said before, it is not ending anytime soon. Okay, stay with us. A little NBA talk with our friend Jasmine Wimbish from CBS Sports. That's up next here on the Sports IQ.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
We've been promising now all day, really promising even yesterday. Jasmine Wimbish will be back with us again. CBS Sports NBA writer. Jasmine, good to see you. How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was lovely. Spent some time with family and took a little weekend trip up to northern Wisconsin. So got to see a very big snowfall that we had up there. It was like 8 to 10 inches, which was pretty crazy. So
yeah. Growing up in downstate Illinois, I don't miss that at all. When weather comes in, like, aren't you excited? Like, no, I did my penance as a kid. I'm good. I'm okay. Look, let's start where we're always starting with the NBA right now, and that's Oklahoma City. Last time we talked was at the very start of the season, tipping off the new campaign. And we said, look, the Thunder, they're going to be the favorites. I mean, they're young. They're healthy. They've got things clicking right now. Did you see a 21-1 start? I mean, this has been even higher than our already lofty expectations.
yeah, I certainly did not see a 21-1 start from them. This is reaching territory where it's like, okay, are they going to break the Warriors' all-time wins record that they set? And they very well could. The fact that they're doing this, the fact that they did most of this without Jalen Williams, who just came back, is the thing that's really mind-boggling to me. That shows that this team really has no weaknesses. It's definitely a next man up mentality. One guy goes down, an all-star guy goes down. Oh, it doesn't matter. We've got a couple guys who can come in off the bench and, plug in these holes and do these things. Chet Holmgren is having a breakout season and is starting to blossom into that third star for the Thunder. It's crazy because I feel like no one's talking about it. And, I'm sure OKC fans probably feel the same way, that they're being disrespected, and being in a small market like Oklahoma City certainly plays into that. Because like if the Knicks or the Lakers or the Celtics were 21-1, we would not hear the end of it everywhere, So they're dominating in silence right now. And for them to be the favorites and to still be overlooked is something that should be scary for the rest of the league, because while everyone else is trying to go out there and see what do we need to add at the trade deadline, OKC can just sit back and just be like, do whatever you guys want. We'll be here. We'll be here in June.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing that I think is really amazing. It's all the things we thought about this team, but my goodness, they're even better at all those aspects than what we thought. And I think the number one thing for me is the culture there. That this is where I think, to your point, they're very scary. That they don't get caught up in the attention they don't get. They don't get caught up if you don't respect them. They don't get caught up if you don't refer to them as defending champs. Like, none of that stuff matters to them. And like you said,
within a unit. Now, eventually it's going to happen. There's going to be some players going to want more or whatever. It's human nature. But it doesn't seem like it's coming for the next year or so. Like, I mean, not only this year, it feels like even right now they could get through next year before you have some internal cracks. And I'm not saying any one player is, I'm trying to get to, but in terms of everyone right now is kind of kumbaya, we're all together. I'm with you. That's what's frightening, that they could really are setting up now to have a dynasty that really could be even greater than what we imagine.
Yeah, and I think if we're really looking big picture, I think it's a dynasty that is sustainable, something that is even greater than what the Warriors were able to put together, mainly because of all the draft picks they have. Sam Presti was like a wizard for the last 10 years, collecting all of these draft picks like he was Thanos in the Avengers. And we're looking at it. Okay, so for everyone who doesn't know, in the 2026 draft, OKC controls the LA Clippers pick. They have that pick. The Clippers are literally like second to last in the Western Conference. That has the potential to be a top 3 pick in a draft that everyone is talking about. This is going to be the best draft since enter year here. So they could go out and get Boozer from Duke. They can go get Darren Peterson from Kansas, the kid at BYU. Like, that's the terrifying part, is they have all of these draft picks that, even if a player is like, you know what, I'm bigger than the team, which I don't see happening. But let's say they don't want to pay a bunch of these players because the new CBA is making it very difficult for teams to sustain these dynasties. Okay, it doesn't matter. We've got a number 3 pick that we just picked up last year. It's a cycle that I don't think we're going to get out of for a couple of years. And Jalen Williams, for instance, him missing all these games to start the season actually sets the Thunder up better, because now he's not eligible for a Supermax contract. So now they can save about $50 million on the back end of his contract to go and use to get other players. Like, it's like they broke the system, and there's really no way for any other team to really duplicate this or really compete with it.
Yeah, it is. And it's one that, the one team that was close to that was Boston in the way they did things, but Danny Ainge has moved on. That has kind of, it got its title, and now they're on to something else, like you said. But Oklahoma City, they're just now approaching it. And it's again where you go to, and we talk about in terms of this stability. They've had the same front office staff, has been there all along. Like you said, Sam Presti. I mean, I love the Thanos reference. That's great. He really has been just collecting Infinity Stones, and now he's ready just to pummel the rest of the league for the next year or several years down the line. You're exactly right with what they can add. I do want to talk about in the East, the big surprise, obviously being Detroit, another team that has really struggled in for the past decade plus. They just have not done much. It's finally all come together under JB Bickerstaff, and coming into the night, 17-5 right now. Playing some very, very good basketball there in the East.
Yeah, I think the Pistons are another team that you can file under, overlooked, disrespected, all of those things. Last year they get to the playoffs and they really showed us like, okay, this there might be something here. Cade Cunningham had an amazing season last year, and he's just built upon that. He's somebody who isn't getting a lot of love in the MVP conversation. Not saying he's going to win it, but he certainly should be in that conversation for what he's been able to do with this team. I think if you're looking at the East, Detroit is in a prime position right now to really run through the Eastern Conference, depending on, what happens with Giannis, who knows? But right now they're sitting at the top of a very, very weak conference. They've taken advantage of that, especially in a year where Boston's down, Indiana's down. Like, this was always going to be the year for teams like Detroit, Orlando, Atlanta to kind of be like, okay, we can go on a run here for 1 year and see what we have. Detroit also has, the ability to go and add somebody at the trade deadline if they want to try and make this team even better than it already is. So I think Detroit is a team, they play hard defense. They're aggressive. They're, Cade Cunningham is just an offensive engine, can do everything, pass, score, get guys involved. Like, this is a team that, if we're talking about the playoffs, to me, it's Detroit, Cleveland, and the Knicks. And Detroit has the ability to give both of those teams problems in the playoffs. So I think people might not assume that now, but it certainly is looking that way when the playoffs start.
Yeah, and I think, too, they're a young team that has some experience. They did go to the playoffs last year. Like you said, they got a taste of that now, what the postseason is like. And I'm a big fan of, the stepping stones, the building blocks. Okay, we got we didn't get to the mountaintop, but boy, okay, we broke through for the first time and we experienced this. And now you've got some young, talented, very smart players that can grow from that. You mentioned the name right now that's on the edge of everyone's lips, so I'll just jump into that conversation. Giannis Antetokounmpo right now. We've heard rumblings now for a couple of years in Milwaukee in terms of his future. It seems now that it's ramping up and maybe could become a reality here in the next several weeks. What are you hearing right now? What are your sources saying?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that he wasn't traded in the offseason just because that's when I kind of expected it to happen. But I do think that we're heading down a path where I'd be surprised if he's still on this team by the trade deadline. I think that, a lot of the reports out there are he was going to use the first quarter of the season to kind of assess how competitive the Bucks can be in a very weak Eastern Conference, as we have already established.
Right.
And right now they're struggling. They've lost 7 of their last 8 games and pretty positive. There's no reinforcements coming. There's nobody injured on the bench that's going to help him out. So I think this is a situation where it's finally going to be a reality where Giannis is not going to be a Milwaukee Buck past, February 5th, which is the trade deadline. Now that then turns into, okay, so then who's trading for him? In August, the Bucks were talking to the New York Knicks as a potential trade partner. They kind of had a 2-week exclusive window to negotiate. Those talks fizzled out and nothing came of it. The Knicks were the one team that Giannis was actually interested in going to at that time. But now that's not going to be the case. There's going to be other teams that might be in that negotiating window. It really becomes, are the Bucks going to honor Giannis's wishes to send him where he wants to go? Or are they going to prioritize getting the best deal possible from whichever team can offer that? Because those two things might not line up. The Knicks can't offer the best package. They have no picks. Like if the Bucks want picks back, they're not going to get that from the Knicks. The Knicks have already used all of them to get all the players on their team. So now that turns into who else is out there that they can get that maybe there's a compromise. Maybe there is a team that Giannis wants to go to that can give Milwaukee what it wants. But I think from now going forward, it's, he's going to take the next 2 weeks to kind of deliberate and the decision will become reached. I think we've already reached that. I think, the report out there was just kind of test the waters to see how everyone responded before the big, he's requesting a trade. So
yeah. It does feel like we're there. If you, now this could be anywhere, but if you looked into your crystal ball, is there a team or two that jumps out at you as a possible destination that you might think, given all things, I mean, wherever he wants to go, et cetera, and that would take forever to parse through all that. But what's a team or two that you think could be strong possibilities?
Yeah, I think outside of the Knicks, because I think that they will kind of move heaven and earth to try and make that happen.
Sure, as they should. Yeah.
I think some teams like the Atlanta Hawks have a lot of good assets that the Bucks might want. A team like the San Antonio Spurs, again, the Oklahoma City Thunder, if they just want to be like, you know what, let's just have fun and just build the craziest team ever, they have limited picks that they can send to the Bucks and a bunch of young guys that the Bucks would be interested in. I know a lot of people are talking about the Lakers. I don't think, unless it's a multi-team deal, I don't think that a team like the Lakers or a team like the Warriors could really put together a real package for Giannis, unless Giannis is like, these are the 2 teams I want to go to and I'm not going anywhere else. Then it turns into, all right, this is a 3-4 team deal. Then something might get done. But the teams that really stand out to me are teams like San Antonio, teams like Atlanta, OKC, even Detroit. But it's a matter of what Milwaukee wants to prioritize. If it wants to honor Giannis and allow him to go to a place where he wants to go, then that changes things. And it might just be the Knicks or LA or Golden State. Who knows?
Yeah, talking with Jasmine Wimbish, story of CBS Sports, and I'm choked up because I'm thinking about the Thunder. They had Giannis. Yeah. Are you kidding? But you're right, because like you said, they have so many young players and so many picks. They can put a package together, keep their core together, and add a superstar like Giannis onto that without really disrupting the big plan. I mean, at that point, just the next 2 years, or I just forget about it. I mean, everyone else playing for exhibition, and who gets a chance to be there on the court to see them, win their next title. I mean, it's and to have him also possibly next to Wemby in San Antonio, would be really intriguing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've said this about a couple teams. I think right now is the perfect time to tank and rebuild because there's not really. I'm watching these games and I'm like, I don't really see a team that's going to challenge OKC unless a major trade is made. The Lakers have been good. Luka's been amazing, but they don't have the depth to challenge OKC. They also don't have the quality front court depth to challenge a duo like Holmgren and Hartenstein. So even the Knicks, again, same issues persist. So if I'm a team like, the Utah Jazz or the New Orleans Pelicans or all of these, bottom dwelling teams, I'm like, you know what? I'll just wave the red or white flag for a couple of years and let OKC do its thing and then stack up draft picks and try and create a good core. And I'm okay with that because I really don't think a team's going to take this team down. I just don't.
I'm with you. Do you think that it's funny? We in sports, we're very much a monkey see, monkey do. Once one team does this to win a title, everyone else says, okay, we got to do that too. Boston has done it. You mentioned OKC. I'm surprised in other leagues. It's harder. Every league is structured differently. I'm surprised in the NBA we haven't seen more of that, of GMs and teams saying, listen, we're going to look big picture. We're not trying to get the quick fix in the next 3 or 4 years, but over a decade, this is what we're planning to do. OKC is a perfect example of that. They pick a coach that was not a big name coach, was a young guy who had a philosophy that fit with what they wanted to do. And now they're the franchise. And again, not just the franchise, they're the franchise being ignored. I mean, as a defending champ, you'd think they would be front and center on primetime packages on networks, and they're not. And they don't care. And I'm stunned that more teams haven't tried to do what Boston did several years ago and what OKC is doing now.
Yeah, I think what teams are kind of learning from the process that OKC put together is we don't want to create another team that has endless, draft picks and all these young guys. So I think it was a little bit of that. I think that's kind of what we're seeing is, OKC was just like, give us all your bad contracts, just attach a couple picks to them. We'll take them, whatever. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And no team wants to do that, allowing another team to be like, okay, well, this team now has about 15 first-round draft picks over the next 5 years. So I think there's probably some of that going on. But, recently the Chicago Bulls, there's been reports that they're trying to emulate what the Indiana Pacers are doing, which is trying to bring in a star veteran like they did with Pascal Siakam to pair with Tyrese Halliburton. Now the Bulls, emulating anyone to me is crazy because they don't have anybody on this team that's like, we're going to build around this. Josh Giddey has been great, but he's not a tier 1 superstar player. So I think that, especially with the new CBA and the restrictions with the second apron and all of these things, it's really hard for a lot of these teams to build sustained success. We saw that with the Celtics. They built this great team, and then they didn't want to pay all of the tax bills that came with it and all of the restrictions, which are understandable. So they had to break apart the pieces. And now you're left with just Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And Tatum's hurt now, and we'll see what that team looks like next year. But we're not going to really see a team like OKC because that was an anomaly. And I don't think anybody else in the league wants to create another OKC where there's just a bunch of draft picks being thrown their way. I think all of those teams learned their lessons and not trying to make deals with Sam Presti. So,
yeah, exactly. Like you said, he's Thanos. He's gonna come back and get you in the end. So,
absolutely.
Jasmine, always great to get your insights and appreciate you squeezing out a few minutes for us. Hey, have a great weekend. If we don't talk to you, happy holidays, and look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks so much. Always good to talk with you. Jasmine Wimbish again joining us. Great to have her here in CBS Sports, NBA writer. And again, it's the Thunder and it's their world. We're just living in it right now. Okay, we'll talk more college hoops and our moment of Oz coming up next here on the show.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
I'll tell you, so many fun teams to watch here in the early season. You never really quite know what somebody has because, again, some play several other ranked teams. Some don't play any, like Indiana, producer Tony. Everyone excited. They're 22nd in the country. They're undefeated. And they finally play a decent team in number 6, Louisville. And that's Louisville got beat actually by Arkansas. I take that back. They finally play a decent team and going to Minnesota to open Big Ten play and lose to the Gophers in the barn, 73-64. Welcome back down to earth. Hopefully you had a good flight.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've talked so much about how these teams are using this early part of the season, not only for tournament prep, but regular season prep. It just goes to show when you don't play anybody, when you're used to coasting after halftime, it will come back and bite you at some point. It bit Indiana early now. I mean, that's their opening Big Ten game, and you're starting off conference play 0-1. I know you're on the road, and winning a Big Ten basketball on the road is tough, but still, I don't think they did a really good job of preparing those kids, getting them ready for conference play. And that's really what you should be doing in this early part of the season. Yeah, you want to pick up some wins over some easy ones to pad the win total. I get it. But you should be playing at least 2 to 3 to 4 games against quality competition before you hit conference play, so you really know what you have.
Yeah, totally agree. Some big games this weekend. In fact, one of those is Kentucky. The loss a couple of nights ago at home to North Carolina, 67-64. Big Blue Nation just bummed. They are winless, 0-3 against top 25 teams. But I kept saying, listen, if I'm UK, if I'm the fan base, I'd rather have a loss to another ranked team like North Carolina in a rivalry blue blood game. I'd rather have that loss by 3 than another 30-point win against a cupcake that you just blew out and everybody got a chance to play and it was just a dunk fest because you were so much better than them. I truly believe you're going to get that. And in Kentucky's case, tomorrow they have another one as number 11 Gonzaga comes in to play. Thank you, John Calipari, setting up this schedule and this series before you went down to Arkansas.
Yeah, so, I mean, but don't panic, Kentucky. That's the thing. You haven't hit conference play. You can still right the ship when you get to conference time. And it's not like they're getting blown out by 15 or 20 or 25 points, right? They've been competitive games. They've been really good basketball games. You're playing a lot of teams with a lot of different pieces. Carolina's a little different. You played Louisville in that state rivalry game, and that didn't go so well. That's fine. As long as you're setting your team up for success once you get to conference play, because that's the key in college basketball. Can you be ready when the ball drops in early January? Or in the case of, the Big Ten and some of these other conferences, for one game here in December, just to give you a tease. Here's a little tease for you. We'll get back to you in January after the first of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Some great games this weekend. Number 1, Purdue is at home against 10th ranked Iowa State. We just saw Iowa State get a blowout in their last win. Number 4, Duke is up at Michigan State. I'm not sure the last time that an ACC team has played a top 10 team on the road. I got to look that up. Maybe I'll try to have that for you tomorrow. But what a great top 10 matchup early on between Duke and Michigan State, both, and by the way, undefeated. So somebody's lose their first game. We mentioned Indiana losing. They are at home actually playing in Indianapolis against number 6 Louisville. The Cardinals are coming off that shocking loss last night to Arkansas. What a shocker that was.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing in those SEC, ACC battles, you've seen some upsets being pulled there. Give Syracuse some credit. They won a big game for them with Carmelo Anthony's son playing a big role. And the guy they have in the middle had about 8 or 9 blocked shots. I was watching the game while I was doing some other work in the background. And about every time I looked up, somebody was, the shot was going away from the Syracuse basket thanks to this kid. And that's a huge win. That's the thing with these games, Larry. This is how you're that middle of the road program. If you can pick up some of those wins, Indiana doesn't have any of those wins. So come tournament time, when the committee's got to decide if they don't win the Big Ten tournament and they're looking at an at-large bid, not only if they're going to make it, but where are they going to be seated?
Yeah.
And playing in these games now, like Syracuse has a chip to play with, right? It's like being at a poker table. I've got a chip. So I've got something to play with. Indiana doesn't have very many chips in front of their pile right now. It's looking a little thin, and so give those schools a lot of pressure. Louisville is going to be pissed when they get to Indiana and play them. So you don't want to play the team that's already put their hand in the hornet's nest and stirred things up some.
Yeah, exactly. Two other games and some teams that also, like you said, have a very good non-conference schedule. Number 13, Tennessee, hosting 14th ranked Illinois. Both have played other top 25 teams before. This game being played there at Bridgestone Arena in downtown Nashville. Tennessee, remember last year, went up and beat Illinois at the buzzer on a full court baseline to baseline layup by Justin Gainey at the buzzer. Number 1 team in the country beating Illinois last year in that game. And then number 2, Arizona, taking on Auburn at home, the 20th team in the nation. Again, both those teams, again, have done very, very well here in the non-conference, playing and testing themselves against some other outstanding competition. Okay, our moment of all is up next.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
Okay, time now for a moment of all. And the list of those people who received votes in the recent New York City mayoral race were released. Yahoo Sports doing a story on this. Some of the names are hilarious. The late Lou Gehrig and the more recently deceased Hank Aaron, both getting votes to be mayor of New York City. Folks, take this stuff seriously. Some other candidates that were listed were written in possibilities. Bad Bunny, Harriet Tubman, Bart Simpson, even Jesus Christ. Lord help us. All right. That's our moment of all. Thanks so much to Jasmine Wimbish for stopping by from CBS Sports, talking a little NBA. We appreciate you as well. Hey, one more day in this week. It is Friday. We will make it a good one. You make today a good one as well. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at SportsIQ LS. We'll see you next time.